even on YouTube, but I'm super excited to start sharing some more behind the scenes with you guys. I personally love watching like vlog content and just kind of like the whole process, so I hope you guys enjoy this. I get lots of questions about stuff that I make and how I make it, and if you guys have been following me, you know that I am someone who like kind of just wings it on a lot of things, and so I sometimes have a hard time explaining how I make something unless I show it in vlog content like I'm doing right now. What I'm doing today is cutting out a new sewing pattern that I created. I actually have had this pattern made for a really long time, and I have definitely a level of imposter syndrome when it comes to sewing patterns and releasing them and creating them for you guys, because I learned everything just by trial and error. I didn't like go to school for sewing or fashion design or anything related to that. So when it comes to sewing patterns, I sometimes get nervous about releasing them and making sure they're right, and I know there's a lot of criticism around sewing patterns, and I think a lot of that is warranted, and then I just get in my head about it and I'm scared to release something, and I don't think that's like how I should approach this, because I do hire a professional to digitize my sewing patterns and grade the different sizes. So I want to show the behind the scenes of how I do it, so you guys know my process, and that if you're buying from me, you know kind of what you're getting. And I literally love that process, and so it kind of bothers me that I get so in my head about it, because it's really what I want to do more of. And thanks to my fiance, he's been encouraging me to kind of get back out there and release some patterns anyway. So that's what we're doing. Working on a pattern. So this pattern is a super simple bodysuit. It's a V-neck, low back tank. I actually have like 5 patterns made. I procrastinate doing anything on them. I want to start with something simple to kind of get my confidence up. So I put together the front, and now I'm just going to tape it all together. If you're curious about my sewing process as well, we're going to be doing that. Do you guys get your sewing patterns printed anywhere? Like they get them printed in a large format? I'm super curious about that, because this is not my favorite process. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. Now I'm just going to cut this out. Okay, we have the final pieces cut out, and now I'll show you the fabric I'm going to use. Also, how cute are these scissors? They're not fabric scissors, they're Fiskars from Joanne. They sent me them, but I'm kind of obsessed. They're like a marble. I just love anything that's cute kind of for no reason, so love those. So these are the fabrics I'm hoping to use. Hopefully this isn't a bad idea, but I think this would be cute on the outside. It's like already a ruched fabric, and it is see-through. You can kind of see my hand already, but it's even more see-through in person. And this bodysuit is double layered and seamless. So I had this already. It's not the same color, but it is just the lining. And I don't mind if it makes it a little less of a true white. But since it has the ruching, it has a little bit of stretch, even though the fabric itself, if you pull it, is not stretchy. But I think this will work. So let's hope it does. I am gonna cut both of these, and you need 2 layers of both. So I'm just gonna lay down both of my fabrics on top of each other. That way I don't have to cut them separately, and I think that'll be more efficient. And any time I can save cutting, I will. Now, time to cut. I use my Guggenheim, I hope I'm saying that right, scissors. These are phenomenal. Highly recommend getting yourself a nice pair of fabric scissors. I did not when I first started sewing, and these make all the world a difference. I'll link these as well. Now I'm just putting clips on the parts I'm going to sew. Clips, in my opinion, are so much better than pins, unless you need to use pins for something that you aren't just doing the edge, but they're super cheap on Amazon. I am back, and it's a new day. I am going to be sewing today. Yesterday I had dinner, and then I had laundry to do, so I didn't get to my sewing, but we're gonna do it today. So here's what we have. Each one has the lining fabric on the back and the main fabric on the front, and what we're going to be doing. And this works with every bodysuit tank top that's gonna be seamless, is you sew the leg holes if it's a bodysuit, the armholes, and the neckline. that goes for the front and back. And then I'll show you what to do afterwards, but I use a step formula for every single like bodysuit, one-piece bathing suit that I make. I'm using my Singer Making the Cut serger, and I'll show you what my thread settings are. I got this serger because it was the cheapest at the time. I was newer in sewing, and so I wanted to get one that was a brand I trusted, Singer, and that wasn't super expensive, so that's how I landed on this one. I actually really like it. I've had it for 2 years now, and I love that it's blue, and it's done everything I need it to do. So if you're looking for like a lower cost serger, this one has been really good to me. I have these, the bottom on 4 and the top on 7. I try to have the needles be higher after some recommendations when I was having troubles with my serger, and I posted on my story, and that's what people said to do. So that's where I am. I'm gonna sew on my serger. I do think that I'm going to do my serger and then my regular sewing machine, because I'll show you what I mean, but I just feel like my thread still shows. Even though I'm using matching thread, I want it to be really clean, so I'm gonna try and do both, I believe. If you have any suggestions on that, definitely let me know. I'll show you what I mean. I did my seam, and actually this looks pretty good. I was planning on using my regular sewing machine, but you can't see the thread too much. It is matching, and I did tighten the needle tension, so I think I'm just gonna go in with my serger and leave it at that. So that saves me some steps, which is super nice as well. So one of the parts, I almost didn't catch the edge of the lining, so I'm just gonna go back in on that part with my regular sewing machine, just so it doesn't make a hole. This is the part I'm talking about. There is a little hole right there, and it's barely caught in the seam. So I'm just gonna go in with my regular sewing machine and just make sure that is all cut in, so a hole doesn't appear. I decided to have the lining fabric be on top while I'm going through the serger because it's more slippery, and that has allowed me to make sure all of it gets caught in there while this fabric is not moving around as much underneath. So I'm gonna go in and do the rest of this piece and finish the other piece as well. I'm at the V-neck part of this bodysuit, and I cut a little bit right here, which will allow me to pull this over to the side and keep going straight. I will go back in though with my regular sewing machine to get a sharp V. So I'll show you what I do here, and then I'll move to my regular sewing machine. Here's how that looks. It's a little funky, but I'm just gonna go in and make this a very sharp V so it looks all nice and clean. I'm just gonna reinforce the whole neckline just because I don't really need to, but I figured while I'm here doing the V, I might as well. So starting at the top and then going down to the V point. Okay, you want it to lay flat, and then I'm gonna go down to the tip of the V and then leave my needle in. You can hand crank the last few to get it in the right position. Now with my needle in, lift the presser foot, turn my fabric in the other direction, lower it, and then just keep sewing all the way up to the other side. And now you get a nice sharp V. So now we have our two pieces sewn together. All you do is turn one of these right side out. It doesn't matter which one. I usually go for the one that has a lower cut. This is also more cheeky in the back and a lower cut, so it'll be easier to stuff between these layers because that's what the next step is going to be. Here is what it looks like. Take your right side out piece and put it between these two layers of the inside out piece. Now I'm just getting the straps through, making sure it all stays flat. You'll be able to check before sewing anyway, but you don't want it to get twisted throughout the middle as you do this. Okay, so I have those clipped for now. Now doing the same for the two sides. So what's important here is you want the two seams to line up best you can. Make sure 4 layers of fabric are being clipped together. I usually start by lining up the edges and then just making sure the 4 layers of fabric are clipped throughout. Okay, so I have everything in there and clipped in place. And since this is a bodysuit that's gonna have snaps, I'm gonna leave the bottom where you snap open and turn that right side out through there. So I'm gonna be sewing each side with 4 layers of fabric, and then the 2 shoulders. At the shoulders, you also want to make sure that the side seams are lined up. It's a little tougher to clip it there, so I usually do that as I go on the machine as well, just making sure. Okay, so now in the opening that we left, which is where you're gonna add the snaps, all you do is pull the inside. Sometimes this can be a thin channel, so you wanna be careful, but you're just gonna pull it so the whole thing is right side out. I love 2-layered bodysuits because you don't have to hem anything, it's all clean. You can see this one turned out a little bulky. I could have trimmed the edge before doing my serger, but it's under your armpit, so it really doesn't matter. This one turned out really good. You can see that one is how you kind of want it to look at those seams that you pull on the 4 layers. And then here's how my V-point turned out. I'm pretty happy with that. Quick fit check. I'm just gonna finish the edges. Tuck the raw sides in. Make sure the side seams are tucked. And then I'm just going to clip it. And what I'm gonna do is just a straight stitch across. My plan after that is done is to just attach this by just sewing all the way around it. And I think that'll be a really easy solution. This is appearing to be very easy, but let's see how it goes. Okay, I have my 2 pieces and I'm just gonna do straight stitches across. Okay, so here's my little piece that I have. And all I'm gonna do is sew around the edge. There is a little bit of fraying right here, but I don't think it'll be a major problem, but something to note for sure. And maybe next time doing some fray check around the edges, or if you guys have any other suggestions, let me know. And here is my finished garment. This honestly was so easy, and making it seamless. You have no hemming, there's no finishes really other than this, which as you guys saw was super easy and fast. And I'm loving how this turned out, so I'm gonna go try it on. Okay, so here is the final look. I think it fits me really well, and the only thing I think I'll change is the height of the leg, because it goes right about here, and I'm worried if I like lean over, if you'll be able to see that on above my pants. So I think I'm just gonna have that be lowered a little bit so it sits a little bit lower down, but overall, very happy. I also love the texture on this, and I think that the lining underneath doesn't really show through. You can't really see it on the edges. So I feel like this is like a staple piece. You can make it in so many different colors, fabrics. This is obviously textured, but you could just do like simple basic, or you could do all different patterns and textures. So I'm really happy. I hope you guys enjoyed that video and that you liked the bodysuit. Comment if you have any questions or if there's any other content that you would like to see from me.